I love discovering new fishing waters, and there's a lot of bass out there in the lake we're going to be fishing for this week's show. In the next half hour, we're going to demonstrate for you some techniques that'll maybe work and help you catch some where you live. We're coming to you from Arkansas this week. Fox Sports Outdoors is on the air right now.
You're watching the only program with weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the show. We're in Arkansas for this week's episode, and this is going to be a bass fisherman's dream. It's our first trip ever to a lake that's located about an hour to the west of Fort Smith, Arkansas, just a little bit east of Little Rock. This is Lake Dardanelle. Now, Lake Dardanelle is really nothing more than the Arkansas River. It's controlled by the Ozark Lock and Dam on the upstream side and the Dardanelle Lock and Dam on the downstream side, and in between are thousands of surface acres of bass fishing paradise. We're going to show that for you this week on the show, hopefully catch a few, give you a little demonstration of what's available to catch here at Lake Dardanelle. And while we're doing that, we're taking you around the region for this week's fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters, both saltwater and freshwater, from lakes, rivers, and bays right where you live. We've brought the Tracker Pro Team 195 40th Anniversary Edition along with us because there's a lot of stumps in this place. I want that aluminum boat so that we don't tear anything up this week. Got to take it easy, see if we can catch a few. Right now, let's get things started back at the FSN Studios and your weekend planner.
Hi everybody, great news. The Salooner tables are predicting some great fishing this weekend. Saturday's game fish activity is listed as good, while Sunday is predicted to have some of the best conditions of the month. A check of the Salooner tables reveals mid-morning to early afternoon as the best time to be on the water for fishing over the weekend. The sun will rise at 6:22 and set at 8:32. Evenings will feature a new moon on Sunday, so expect nighttime fishing visibility to be low. We'll be right back to check all of the current fishing reports from throughout the area. And two-time Angler of the Year, Gerald Swindle, stops by to answer your Ask the Pro question. Stick with us.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Mercury, Go Boldly, Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. Request our free 2019 fishing guide at orangebeach.com.
Hey, that's a spotted bass too. That's a pretty decent little spotted bass. That's a beautiful fish right there. There's one right along that grass edge. Little fat one hooked under the chin. Okay, it's a start. Hey, that's a spotted bass too. That's a pretty decent little spotted bass. How about that? I didn't know those were in here. This is my first trip to Dardanelle. So we've made it out on the lake and we've gotten started fishing here. And wow, look at the little belly on that one. That's a fat one out here eating. I guess they eat shad out here. That's a beautiful fish right there. See the lines down his belly right there. That's how you can tell he's a spotted bass, and a couple of patches of teeth on his tongue. We're gonna let him go back right there. And let me show you here what I'm doing. First thing, to orient yourself to Dardanelle, it's on the Arkansas River, as we said, and the river is really not the important part of what goes on here fishing wise. It's all the back bays, creeks, oxbows. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of little places that just meander off the river, and they're all shallow. And I will tell you this, bass on this lake live shallow year round. In fact, talking to my good buddy Charles Morrison, who guides here nearly every day, and he just said even in the coldest part of winter you can still find bass up in this deep of water. They just live shallow. So you better get used to fishing shallow if you want to come here and be prepared with all your shallow baits. That fish hit a little Strike King KVD jerk bait, and I'm fishing weeds to start off with. I just pulled up here on a little patch of weeds, and you can see down through here that they're not really blooming. They're not all that green. They're just kind of some brownish green weeds, and they grow in a line down here. And so what I'm doing is just going down paralleling these weeds casting straight parallel with them and jerking that jerkbait along. And I've actually caught a few fish already. That's the first one we actually got the camera up and took a look at. But I've already caught a few down this bank already, so maybe we're on to something. But Dardanelle is a sprawling place, and I'll guarantee you, if you're coming here for the first time, you want a guide for at least one day, because number one, you'll get lost, but number two, there are stumps and shallow spots everywhere. Unless you know where you can drive your boat, you can get in a lot of hurry in a big bunch of trouble. So anyway, we'll fish down here, see what we can find out, but we've got to start a spotted bass too. That's the first one of those I've caught. I've caught some largemouths. We'll show you some of the other things going on here and the other species too.
Hey folks, Captain Greg Varm here for this week's Fox Southwest Outdoors Report. Hey, we're going to start this week's report down in Lower Laguna Madre. Captain Wayne Davis, he says extreme high water levels has the fish scattered way up on the flats. This high water also makes areas in the back bays now accessible and are producing nice catches of the big three: speckled trout, redfish, and flounder. Captain Wayne says you need to stay with your top waters early, and by mid-morning, hey, switch over to your K-Wiggler 4-inch paddle tails or willow tails in the good old strawberry and white or pumpkin seed and chartreuse. Now let's move to Baffin Bay. Hey, just talked to Captain Chris Elliott. He says tides are way up, and this has redfish pushed up tight to the spoil islands. Top waters are working best on those cloudy days, and there's nothing more exciting than seeing a redfish blow up on a top water in the shallows. Now for speckled trout, hey, hit the rocks in Baffin and the flats along the spoil islands. Captain Chris says his hot baits have been the K-Wiggler ball tails, and the shrimp tails are his go-to lures for the specks right now. Hey, remember, if you want to fish inshore or offshore out of Galveston or Freeport, and remember, we have lodging at Bay's Landing, and our kids' summer fishing camps are coming up in June. Hey, give me a call. Hey, I'm Captain Greg Varm. I'll see you next time.
Got it. There we go. Oh, he got off right there. Darn it, we saw him anyway. Well, we're working our way down this bank, and I think maybe we've got a few fish down here. This is a great place for after the fish spawn. They leave those real shallow pockets, those real fishy looking places in about that deep, and they come back out on these kind of banks right here, and can show you a look down this bank, but it definitely falls off, and it's got a few grass beds hanging off of it, and it falls from about 3 or 4 feet of water with some rock, and then dumps off into 12, 15 feet of water real quick. And this is a great place for those fish to just run right up and down here and feed. And it's a good jerkbait spot. So all I'm doing is just paralleling it, throwing out parallel to what grass I see coming out, keeping my rod tip down, jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause again. And surprisingly, they hit it more times than not on the jerk, not on the pause. You would think they would hit it when you pause it, but they like it moving a lot of times. Okay, we'll see what else we can make happen here, but got a few fish working. Hang with us. Beautiful Lake Dardanelle, Arkansas. My first trip here, and I love it here. I guarantee you this is the fishiest looking place I've seen in a long time. Big one. Well, I'll tell you, we have just caught a bunch of fish. There's one. Got my jerkbait right here. Not a big one. Well, I'll tell you, we have just caught a bunch of fish, but just have not caught any good size at all. We're on Dardanelle today, and just outside of Russellville, Arkansas. We caught a whole bunch of bass, actually a little bigger than that, most of them. Getting bites has not been a problem. The size has been, but I'll tell you, we're actually in kind of a bay right now. It looks like a whole nother lake. It's not. It's off the river channel. I think this is called Piney Creek, but it opens up into a giant big old bay up here. And there's just so many places like this where you go through a little narrow neck, and then all of a sudden you open up and you're in a great big lake of its own. And there's resident fish that live in every one of these, and all these bays are shallow, and the fish stay shallow year round, as we're talking about. I want to show you a couple of the other fish that we caught. My brother Terry's with me. He shoots camera for me. Anytime I get anywhere around Oklahoma where he lives, he's an attorney there, and kind enough to pick up the camera and shoot it, and so I picked up the camera and shot him, and he caught a couple of bass as well, doing the same thing, fishing a jerkbait, just shallow, kind of parallel in the shorelines, and we're having a good day, catching a few fish. The action, can't complain at all about the action. There's tons of fish in Dardanelle. I'm going to give you some more information at the end of the show if you want to book a guide trip. Come here yourself.
Man, we've got the water in Oklahoma over the last few weeks of rains, and especially here in northeastern Oklahoma, where we continue to pass those waters on through our dams. Now, I'm standing on the Arkansas River below Keystone Dam, where at the time of this video, they're releasing a record-breaking 100,000 CFS through all 18 gates. Now, our other areas still have some high water. Charles Jewell and his buddy Jared Cochran had a good recent outing to Texoma. They finished 5th in the Future Bass Trails tournament there, catching a mixture of smallmouth and largemouth in the flooded timber, throwing chatterbaits and swim jigs. And you can still catch crappie shallow. If you're not finding them shallow, move a little bit farther out. They're starting to suspend and starting to migrate into their summer patterns. So look for them at about 20 to 25 foot of water, but suspending about 10 to 12 to 15 feet deep. Lots of water in the state. It's going to make for a great year of fishing, and you can catch them, but you can't catch them if you don't go.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is once again brought to you by the good folks at Fiberworks Marine Collision. When you want it done right, you want it done fast, Fiberworks Marine Collision. Now this week we've come to Eagle Mountain Lake, where the sand bass are on fire up near the dam. Use your electronics, find the humps on the bottom, and you'll find the bait fish and then the sand bass. You'll want to use your small spoons and slabs or a 1/4 ounce jig head with a 2 to 3 inch shad colored swim bait body. Now we're also going to go out to Lake Fork, which is known for its bass, but we're going to talk about some of the big crappie. The black crappie record at Fork is nearly 4 pounds and the white crappie record's over 3.5. You'll find those fish right now on both the bridges and the brush. Use your common crappie jigs or crappie rigs with minnows for those big Lake Fork slabs. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you once again by the good folks at Fiberworks Marine Collision. When good enough just isn't good enough. Be sure and check us out, Lone Star Lakes, on Facebook.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Lose, Feel the Difference. Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland, the best in bass and crappie lures, heads to tails. Glacier Glove, stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Balls Out, made in the USA. Heavy-duty mounts for your fish finders.
Look at that one, folks. That's what you can come and catch at beautiful Lake Dardanelle. That is a fish. I didn't think that was a fish. Oh, wow. Come on. Oh, yeah. Big fish. That's a good one. I've been waiting all day to catch this fish right here. Come up here. Get in my net. Yeah. There is a big, fat-bellied fish right here. Look at this. Ate my spinnerbait. Wow. Look at that one, folks. That's what you can come and catch at beautiful Lake Dardanelle. Been catching small fish all day, and I told you that we had a good day and actually caught a lot of fish. But I made a switch right then. I switched over to a spinnerbait. It's a big Strike King. Show it to you at the end. Look at the belly on that fish. That fish has been feeding up big time out here, fishing kind of a rock riprap here. And I got a good one to hit it. All right, we'll put him back. There we go. All right, thank you. That was fun right there. That's a big old, thank you. You know, I mentioned that Dardanelle is a shallow lake, but these fish will get on anything, any piece of cover they can find. And as I mentioned, I switched over to the spinnerbait, and I just started going down a shoreline here. It's actually got some drop to it. I'm sitting out in like 5-6 feet of water, which is pretty deep for this lake. And I'm just making pretty long casts at every piece of cover I can find. Now that fish wasn't actually tied on the cover. That spinnerbait had actually come clear of a log, and I really didn't think it was a fish. I thought maybe I was pulling through some logs or something, and all of a sudden it started fighting me back. But One key, if you've never been here, you just want to fish any visible, it's an easy deal. You fish any visible piece of cover you can find. It can be a little grass bed, a stump, a log, a little rock pile, a riprap. If it looks like it ought to hold a bass, there's a great chance that it does hold a bass here at Dardanelle. It's all shallow, and they just get on the pieces of cover in shallow water. You just kind of find the depth. It can be anywhere from 2 foot deep to 6, 8, 10 foot deep at the very most. All right, we got us a good one. I didn't think I was going to catch a good one today after all those 2-pounders, 2.5 pounders that we caught, but I finally got the one I'm looking for. Yeah, baby.
Hey friends, Cajun Phil here with you, Fox Sports Southwest Louisiana Fishing Report. Tell you what, look at this beautiful weather. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. Wind's been horrific for about a week and a half around here. I tell you what, listen, the seagulls, they're even happy. It's crazy. Remember 2 weeks ago we were catching a big old speckled trout? They kind of disappeared when all that wind started blowing, the water got real muddy, and they have not been biting. But the last day and a half, talked to some guys just a while ago, they're out there, they're catching trout again. That's a great sign. So as far as bass goes, Calcasieu River still high, still muddy, not doing good at all. Sabine River, they're catching lots of bass there. Lacassine Reserve, shallow water marsh, got to have an aluminum boat, a small motor. I heard of 7 double-digit fish, or close to double-digit, 9 to 12-pound bass out of Lacassine Reserve. Tell you what, friends, fishing's good. Get out there and enjoy it. Till next time, this is old Cajun Phil for Captain Kevin, who's guide today. Saying happy fishing, may God bless, and you know what? We're going to see you next week right here on Fox Sports Southwest. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, we're still here at Lake Dardanelle here in Arkansas, and as you can see, the sun has broken behind the trees and behind some of the mountains. So we're fishing down a kind of a shady bank here, and a lot of times you can make a fish bite in the shade when he won't bite out there in the sun. We fished a long stretch in the sun, but guess what? We've caught a couple of fish, and I want to show you one in particular. My brother Terry, who lives in Oklahoma City, he's an attorney there, comes and shoots camera with me anytime I'm anywhere around Oklahoma or Arkansas, and he stuck a really good one in here. I grabbed the camera, and here's what happened next. Hey, my brother Terry's got one. Oh yeah, fighter. Piece of fish. Atta boy. And we want to give you Charles Morrison's telephone number. He's the guy that's helped us out, put us on some good fish, and as you've seen, we managed to catch a couple of nice ones before it was all done. You can contact him at the information you see there on your screen. He's probably guided more days and fished more days on this lake than anybody else. He spends a ton of time on this water and knows every inch of it. If you'd like to catch some bass and some stripers, Charles Morrison is your contact at the information you see on your screen.
You can always watch our latest episode on the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Catch up on past episodes and learn about fishing techniques and new gear at our how-to page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for new fishing videos every day. Simply search for Fox Sports Outdoors and click the like button on Facebook and the follow button on Twitter, and watch a new episode every week on any device by downloading the free Waypoint TV app on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by MotorGuide's wireless and easy-to-use XI3, Waypoint Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist, Strike King, Taiwan Han, and Tracker Boats, America's best-selling fishing boats.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to your Ask the Pro question for this week. Warren has a question specifically for two-time Angler of the Year, Gerald Swindle. During the Classic, you said you have to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win. What did you mean by that, and does it apply to more than just fishing? Let's hear what Gerald has to say.
Well, I said it, I weighed in Birmingham at the Classic, and on basically my home water, and I had a horrible tournament. I finished like butt naked last. And I knew driving back to the Coliseum, my wife said, you know, keep your head up, the fans want to see who you really are. And she said, you don't want somebody to think you're not a good guy. And it dawned on me that you'll always be judged more on your losing days. People will judge you when you lose, not when you win. And when I got on stage, I realized it then. I realized you have to learn to lose to be a good winner. In order to get ready to win, you have to understand what it's like to lose, be able to accept that burden, smile, walk it off. If you can't handle losing, then you're not man enough to handle holding the trophy. Because with both ways comes a huge responsibility, and I know that. And I knew that that day. This is your time to learn to be humble. You caught one fish in front of your hometown crowd, you blew it. But you got to man up and smile.
Thank you, Gerald. If you want some help or insight from one of the pros, simply go to foxsportsoutdoors.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now it's time to find out who wins this week's Big Catch of the Week.
We are back at the boat ramp after a great day's bass fishing, and it's time right now for this week's winner in the Big Catch of the Week contest. Somebody gets their picture and their big fish shown on television. This week's winner is Eric Diltz of Edmond, Oklahoma, showing a 40-inch redfish he caught at Cocodrie, Louisiana. And as a bonus, here's Charles Morgan with a 12-pound redfish he also caught at Cocodrie on a fly rod. And if you'd like a chance to be our next winner, just go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/FoxSportsOutdoors, click comment, upload your photo, and give us all the details about where it was caught, how big it was, your name, your hometown. Give us all the particulars, and you could be on television with your big fish. Next up, here's some of the gear you can use to be successful when you go out, and it begins with my Balls Out bracket. This is the bracket that the pros use to hold their fish finders. It's beefy, it's tough, it's lightweight, it's got all kinds of adjustments on it, and it's the only one I found so far that will take the pounding that the boat gets when you go across big waves. Look for the Balls Out Fish Finder mount online at the address you see on your screen. The rod and reel I use today is my favorite Lew's rod and reel so far. It's the very high-end Lew's Team Lew's Pro TI rod and reel setup. It's easily recognizable by the purple color. It's got the Wind dry tack grips, the VTR ring that puts your finger in touch with the rod blank, the low profile reel with lots of anti-backlash control, got all the goodies, the speed dial, the speed keeper, everything you could possibly want in a high-end rod and reel. We basically caught all our fish today on two different baits, a spinner bait and a jerk bait. On your left is the Strike King KVD jerk bait, and on the right is the Strike King Tour Grade spinner bait in a 3/8 ounce size. Given the chance at a do-over, 50 people in their 80s were asked by author and sociology professor Tony Campolo what they would do differently. Their answers were interesting. They said they would take more risks, they would do more things that would matter after they were gone, and they would live their life more intentionally. You and I need to live our lives with our antenna up and notice the things that go on daily, moment by moment. Because as the old Schlitz beer commercial says, you only go around once in life. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode from the beauty and the bassy waters of Lake Dardanelle, Arkansas. You're looking at the contact information for Charles Morrison in case you'd like to book a guide trip here. And again, I would recommend that you book a guide trip at least one day before you start finding your way around these waters by yourself. From Lake Dardanelle, Arkansas, until next week, I'm Barry Stokes. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.